The Palace of Versailles was first built by Louis XIII in 1623 to be used as a hunting lodge, but it was Louis XIV who truly created Versailles. Removed from the rebellious people of Paris, yet within reach of the city, the site offered plenty of opportunity to build. It thus fulfilled the king's desire to gather his court around him, something that no other royal residence in the area could offer. It was he who gave the palace its grandeur. Versailles was the seat of the absolute monarchy and became its symbol, since the palace itself, modeled according to the Sun King's wishes, reflected the way that he conceived power. In an absolute monarchy, all power comes from the king. In Versailles, Louis XIV was master of his own house, just as he was master of the kingdom that he governed. Excluded from affairs of government, the nobility no longer held any real power, yet they nonetheless felt the need to appear at court. It was there that the king dispensed favors, such as offices, land, titles, pensions, etc. In this society, founded on prestige and appearances, emulation was constant, luxury compulsory, and life extravagant. In this way, Louis XIV had a hold over his people. It was he who had to dominate in every way. In his eyes, the exercise and outward signs of power were one and the same. His residence had to be the biggest and the most beautiful, and its decor loaded with symbols to his glory. The number of servants, in the noble sense of the term, assembled in the king's house had to be the greatest, and his court to be attended by the most people. At the end of his reign, the chateau itself could host 4,000 residents. Etiquette and its constraints may seem pointless to us today, but the huge crowd had to be strictly regulated. Protocol was essential since it served to confirm ranks, the primacy of the king, in short, the hierarchy within the court. It applied to the sovereign's most private moments, such as getting up in the morning, meal times, and going to bed at night. Another specific feature of Versailles, and something which naturally astonished foreigners, was that both the gardens and the inside of the chateau were largely open to the public. Anyone, be they a member of the court or otherwise, could see the king when he crossed his state apartments to go to the chapel. They could even go right into his bedchamber as long as he was not there. All these functions, representation, government, accommodation, and service, explained the layout of the place, but it was not built in a day. Versailles took 50 years of building. During this youthful period, Louis XIV initiated building work inside and outside, favoring the extension of the grounds and the gardens, which became the settings for festivities so extraordinary that Versailles became known throughout Europe. The new buildings, constructed in stone, and according to the tastes of the time, a Baroque Roman villa style, contrasted so starkly with the brick, stone, and slate architecture dating from the time of Louis XIII that there appeared to be two different chateaux slotted one right into the other. The chief painter to the king provided the drawings for all the internal decor of the state apartments and for the sculptures of the fountains with their multiple water effects. Apollo, the sun god, with whom the king was identified, reigned throughout. Between the king's apartment, which extends to the north, and that of the queen to the south, the central facade on the garden hosts an Italian-style terrace with a central fountain. But this new chateau no longer sufficed, and the arrival on scene of a new architect of the chateau allowed it to assume the dimensions we know today. In 1677, this accelerated building work reflected the determination of Louis XIV to move the court and government to Versailles permanently. Thus began an immense building project, which, in spite of the tens of thousands of men working on it, was far from complete on May 6, 1682, when the king actually moved in to a palace that was still filled with workmen. The chateau's surface area increased 5-fold as of 1678. The Hall of Mirrors replaced the central terrace on the first floor. The interiors were constantly renovated, the groves continuously redesigned. The water pipe work, increasingly ambitious, but wars towards the end of the king's reign, hampered the progress of the projects. The fifth and last chapel was the only officially opened in 1710, albeit unfinished. It was the king's determination and 50 years of hard work, hesitations, trials, and tribulations that led to the creation of the Palace of Versailles that we know today.